Thanks to those showing us live, those who have joined us on the archive. This is the style here. Been joined by the one and the only Lyndon from Boxing Deep Dive. How's it going, brother?
Yeah, good, mate. All good on this side of the pond. How's life over there?
Pretty
Or should
good.
I
Pretty
ask?
good.
Maybe I shouldn't ask.
The things are what they are, but for me personally, things are great.
Good stuff.
And hopefully, things are great for everybody tuning in. So much to talk about, but the elephant in the room, it can't be escaped. And I know you've talked about it. I've talked about it. People that never talk about Zerafa or Nikita are talking about it. It's everywhere.
Sorry.
And Nikita Tszyu and Michael Zerafa looked like it was going to be a great fight, and then there's a head clash. The round ends. He's taken to the corner. I could hear him say to the ref immediately, "I can't see." He tells the doctor, did he say it's blurry?
Blurry,
and then he said, "I can't see," before the doctor even asked him, and then he reiterated it, and then he left the officials with no choice but to stop the fight. That literally, there's nothing they could do. They can't talk him out of it, and nothing like that. And that is that. But then that would have been bad enough. But moments later, he turns around. He tries to sound like he's shocked. He looks at Nikita like he can't believe it. He's in shock about it, right? He goes to Nikita. He gives him a hug. And Nikita looks confused. And then he does a post-fight interview. He's saying, "I didn't say that." He's denying saying it. He's asking the crowd, "Why are you booing me? The doctor stopped it." Right? So he's trying to throw the doctor under the bus. And then in the post-fight, same thing. And then he tried to kind of, I don't know, like switch up a story too many times for my liking, Lynn. What do you think?
Yeah, no, well, we've all commented on this many times over the last few days, but I think, and the interesting thing about this is Nikita hasn't been spoken about. You almost see his expression change from, all right, let's get ready to go. He's trying to get himself back into the right mindset, to the, "Are you kidding me?" look on his face. He was just as shocked as everybody.
Right.
And you just see that split second that it goes from ready to fight to what's going on. And look, I think everyone's seen the vision. It's been replayed a million times. And that's why it's so hard for Michael Zerafa to pretty much dig himself out of this. And, and you're right, he tried to throw the doctor under the bus. And they interviewed the doctor after the fight, which is not something they usually do. So they interviewed him, interviewed the referee, and I think they were all very conscious about just, hey, it's got nothing to do with us. And I think we all saw that anyway. But the biggest thing for me with Michael was that he didn't take account of what had happened. He didn't stick to the story, which is the big thing. And I've said this on my channel, that I think if he had went to the center of the ring when he was interviewed by Ben Damon and said, "Guys, I know you're upset, but I can't see. I've got blurry vision. I can't see the punches coming at me. What do you want me to do?" I think everyone would have been pissed, because everyone put a lot of money into the fight. Everyone traveled. But I think everyone would have sort of understood, well, you're right. He had no choice but to pull out. But to go to after what had happened, to then say to Ben Damon, "Well, I didn't stop the fight. The doctor stopped the fight. I wanted to continue, and I wasn't asked whether I was asked if I could continue." I think everyone knows that once he says he can't see, it's taken out of the doctor's hands. The doctor's hands are tied. He has not got a choice. So he's not going to ask Michael whether he wants to continue or not, because that's it. The fight's done. So he would have known. And I know we haven't heard from Michael yet, but I don't think there's anywhere for him to go. The guy's had 40 fights. He's had numerous cuts in the past that have been checked by doctors. He knows, and especially when the doctor, or the referee, actually said to him, "Michael, you realize if we stop the fight, it's going to go to a no contest." And Michael said, "Okay." That is the damning word for me. So it's a big hole to dig yourself out of, mate. I'm not sure he can do it.
I think the problem I have is, I'm not in his mind, so I can't prove this. I'm just going by what I saw. It looks to me like he tried to pull a fast one.
Yep.
It looks to me like he thought, "Oh, they're going to blame the doctor, not me," right? I think he played it in his head somehow, and maybe he didn't remember by the time he was interviewed how it really went down. And that can happen when people are trying to orchestrate stories and lies in their head.
Mm.
And I think he thought, I'm going to say I can't see. Those are the magic words if you want the fight to get stopped.
Mm.
But they're also words that fighters don't. If you remember last year when people were getting on Tim, he should have just said he can't see, and I'm like, he can't say that, guys. It's just, it was on the doctor, his team, whatever. But you can't really get on the fighter for not, because this happens, right? People would have gotten on him and been, oh wow, I can't believe Zerafa might have been one of them, by the way. Oh, he said he can't see, and this, that, and the third, and even though that was a horrible cut that Tim had, fighters they just don't say that. Even if they're in a position where it makes all the sense in the world. Nikita Johnson could have easily said, "I can't see. There's blood in my eye." She didn't say it. Like, it just, for what it's worth, this shocked the doctor and the ref. They thought this was just going to be some routine check. Yeah, I'm doing my due diligence, whatever. But once the doctor hears, "I can't see," it is malpractice to allow him to continue.
Yeah.
Because if something happens to Zerafa, he's going to lose his career. And the doctor, he's not going to put his career on the line for Michael Zerafa. Like, it's just not going to happen. Okay, you can't see. Okay, the fight's done. I'm not going to let you fight then. And that's it. Like, that's his job. He could have said, even the it's blurry is still very, he was trying to pull a fast one with that one. But the doctor kind of didn't let him, so he had to say, "I can't see." I mean, this is damning. I mean,
it is, and this is the thing. You see the doctor sort of turn to the referee, and he's like, "Gonna have to stop the fight, mate." You know, this is what he said, and the referee, you could almost read his mind, thinking, "Are you kidding me? I'm going to have to stop this fight." The thing is, and you're right about what goes through the fighters' minds. I've got a feeling that Michael, like, he is known a little bit for being, well, I was going to say eccentric, or maybe I've heard lots of stories about Michael where he's been pretty much had to be, pulled back from the ledge of pulling out of fights. This is on the day of fights, having to pull out, and just having to be, as I said, talked off the ledge a few times about actually getting in there. And then we had Sam LaBruna, his former trainer, who was interviewed on the weekend, who was actually his trainer when he pulled out of the Tim Tszyu fight. Him saying he had to push him in there a few times. The cut man at the time alleged that Michael asked him to cut him so he could actually pull out of the Tim Tszyu fight. Now, I don't know whether all this is true, but when the cut man says that, you have to listen. But the thing is, I think he's copying the most. And I'm with you, by the way, that I think he just had a brain fade in the corner, thinking, well, let's just do this another time. I'll just say I can't see, and I'll just sort of slip out, and everyone will be fine. And I can't believe he thought that everyone was going to be okay, by the way, by saying, "I don't know what you're all booing for." Well, what do you think they're booing for, Michael? But I think the backlash he's got from a lot of the Australian boxing legends or identities or whatever it might be is the fact that to the boxers that are commenting, this never enters the equation in their mind, ever. This is why I think the backlash has been so severe. We've had Danny Green say, the amount of times he was knocked down and cut and everything else. You've had Billy Dibb. You've had Barry Michael, numerous other fighters. Jeff Horn have all come out and said this would never, ever even enter into the mindset. And it was probably the first thing that went into Michael's head is, well, I'll just take the opportunity to call it a night. So it's very, very frustrating for all. I know it's mainly Australian boxing fans, by the way, because I know over there probably most people didn't care less about it, but it's massive news over here, and it's going to be very, very hard for Michael Zerafa to come back from this. I'm actually looking forward to hearing from Michael Zerafa. I know he released a statement. I want to hear him being interviewed and seeing what he has to say. I doubt it's any different to what he's already said, but we'll see.
Look, I don't know how he makes this better, to be honest with you. I think he needs a really good PR person to handle the situation. But I mean, it's going to be hard. He changed his story way too many times. He just did. And I think what happened is, and again, I have to reiterate this, it's just me. This is my opinion. I'm not in the guy's head, right? But I think he felt it in there. I think he knew I'm in for a long night, and he saw an opportunity to get out of there. And when I hear I'm hearing Paulie Malignaggi, I'm hearing Tim Bradley. He made a pretty
I saw
funny
that.
video about it.
What did
He
he
was
call
calling
him?
him
Zerafa, I think
Zerafa.
he called him.
I didn't even want to correct him. I'm just like, well, it is what it is. Zerafa, like it is what it is. And too many fighters are coming out saying you just don't say those words. And
Yep.
he knew when he looked at the doctor. I don't know if he thought like I can't see you know I don't know what he thought was going to happen.
Talking out loud, maybe. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, but I will say this. I don't know how he recovers from this career wise. I just don't. Because if he would have, because I thought he felt it, and I think he knew, and I think part of it could be, oh, now I got to deal with this freaking slit, you know what I mean, and with this kid, and he's bringing it, right? I call him a kid; he's in the late 20s, but still, young boxing career of Nikita Tszyu. I think Nikita was probably stronger than he expected, better than he expected, and then he probably felt like I don't know if I want to deal with him with this cut. So I'm just gonna get out of here, right? People will say it was smart, or I don't know what he was thinking, like to be honest. But I don't know, because if he would have just, let's say he would have taken a beating for the rest of the fight, right, and the blood got worse or something, right? Even if Nikita dominates him for the rest of the round and he goes down swinging or whatever the case is, right? Or the cut does get worse and they do stop it, whatever the case is. Boxing fans, look, I know even I get on boxing fans a lot, but boxing fans will forgive a warrior. They'll do it. Like if you go out there and you give it your best, assholes still shit on you because you lost. Yes, right. Like we do have a very tough fan base, right? Boxing, but everybody would have said at the end of the day, hey, but he's a tough dude, though. I mean, man, he brought it. Like, whatever the case is, right? And I don't even get what Michael was so concerned about, because you lost before. It's not like you haven't lost before, right? But you would have still gotten some gigs. You could have been the guy that fights you could have been the gatekeeper of the division in Australia. You fight the up and comers. You could get paychecks that way. Expose some, lose some, but at least you keep fighting. People will still want to see you. I don't think anybody wants to see him again. What is the upside with Michael Zerafa? It's not, his talent doesn't make up for the heartache and the headache. I've seen fighters do stunts. Bernard Hopkins did that stunt with, if you remember, against Shad Dawson, where he threw himself on the ground and everybody, what the hell was this? But his talent was able to give him more opportunities, right? Even if people didn't like that. Zerafa's not that level of talent. What is the upside? Why should No Limit put him back on a card, or any other promoter?
Well, it's already been reported that No Limit have torn up the contract they've got with him. And the thing with Michael is as well, he has had run-ins with pretty much everyone in Australian boxing. And he didn't have a run-in with me, but I promoted, I think, 3 of his fights, including being co-promoted for the Jeff Horn fight. And I always found him to be okay, but he's gone through probably half a dozen different promoters, 6 or 7 different trainers, managers, including Mike Altamura, who now manages Tim Tszyu. So he's done the rounds as far as everyone involved in boxing, especially in Melbourne, where he's from. So it's going to be hard for him to regroup and go somewhere else and have someone get behind him, especially a promoter. And even with the training side of things, the word on the street here in Melbourne was that he pretty much trained himself. He had a guy that he worked with once or twice a week, brought in the cut man on the night, so it wasn't actually his cut man. The whole team was sort of slapped together, and he pretty much did his own work. Pretty hard to come back from that. And to have a promoter, after being a promoter myself, to take on somebody who has got the reputation of Michael now and be expected to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into that guy with the risk involved, I just think it's going to be really hard, especially when the boxing public, more than anyone or anything, has now turned their back on him. I think after the Tim Tszyu fiasco 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was, somehow he managed to get back into the good graces of No Limit. and back into the fight scene. He was sort of forgiven somewhat by the fans out there, and now that goodwill is completely gone. So I was going to say I worry about where he goes now. I probably don't worry, but if I was in his camp and it was him, I'd be very concerned about where we go now, because in Australia, he's finished. He's finished. No one will touch him.
Scott Walker, how's it going, brother? I hope everything is good. It's Eric in Linden, says Adam Kelly. He says, what's good? Everything is good on this end for sure. Saludos to you as well, Jesus M. Adam Kelly says he's just a con job. Damn. The dumbass. Jesus, people are being brutal to him. Thought he was getting rematch until he spoke to Glenn Jennings, and everyone in the ring then goes back to the room and says, I'm going to quit. I hope we don't see him. Okay, I'm not familiar with that whole situation there. Zerafa took the money. He knows what's expected of him, and he dogged it and lied about it afterwards. He didn't want to get further hurt because he was he has a wedding coming up. Once a cat, always a cat. 100. Look, man, I've seen people just really go in on Zerafa, like really going on him, not even I'm going that hard on him, to be honest. I think I'm pretty light on him, to be honest. But Lyndon, I when I heard, because I didn't watch it live, my shift literally starts around the time like main event boxing cards start in Australia. So I'm like working, and it's early morning for me. And when I read the headline, I honestly just thought, man, I might have to defend Zerafa. I mean, maybe people are being a little too harsh on him. But then I saw the headbutt, and then I saw how he acted in the corner with the doctor and the ref, and then I saw the post-fight interview, and I said to myself, "There's no defending this. Like I got nothing." I will stand up for a fighter, even if it's the unpopular thing to do, even if it's a fight I don't like. I can't do it here. I got nothing. It's just overwhelming, and it brings me to this: that there's actually a conspiracy theory being thrown out that No Limit and planned this. This is what they wanted to do. I'm not saying it's a majority; it's a small minority of people saying this, but I've been reading a lot. I saw some of the comments in my videos, and I mean, guys, not everything has to be a conspiracy, honestly. There is no incentive at all for George or anybody involved with No Limit to plan this. It doesn't even benefit Nikita. It doesn't benefit Nikita's team. It doesn't benefit anybody involved with Zerafa. It doesn't benefit anybody. And I'm going to say this. Even though it's not spreading that conspiracy, they're really getting on No Limit here. And look, I've been critical of No Limit, but this isn't it. Like, this is not where I'm going to get on them, because they had every intention of giving people a very good fight card. It was out of the control what happened with the Liam Paro fight. And what happened in this main event, which is why people showed up to begin with, was completely out of their control. Like, this was just some very bad luck and a decision by Michael Zerafa that caused this. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you about No Limit. Firstly, see Stretch in the comments there, mate. Get on the beers this week. It's Australia Day this weekend, so fly the flag loud and proud out there. All the Aussies that are watching out there, forget all the bullshit in the world at the moment. Get those flags flying nice and high, all right, and enjoy a beer. Not Foster's OD style. We don't drink Foster's over here.
Oh, really?
So that I've just dispelled that myth. We don't drink Foster's, okay? Anyway, have a VB or something over there, Stretch. Anyway, but yeah, I'm with you as far as No Limit goes, mate. I think that in this instance, I don't believe the conspiracy theory, by the way. That's ridiculous if you ask me, to have a promoter try and manufacture something like that to happen. I mean, they obviously can't manufacture a cut eye, but to have this whole narrative of maybe we'll set it up. I think all you had to do was look at George Rose after the fight. The look in his eyes where he refused to comment. He just said, look, and George is normally, he loves to talk. He's the Don King of Australia almost, George Rose. But he was like, I'm not going to say anything. You could tell he wanted to speak, but even at the press conference, he sat there. He didn't say anything. So I'm not taking anything about, taking that on board about the conspiracy theory. But I'm with you, though, as far as No Limit with the criticism. And what else are they supposed to do? They've just given Australia one of the biggest fights in Australian history. as far as attendance goes and pay-per-view numbers and all that sort of stuff, and the interest in the fight goes. It was a great event. Paro and Donovan not happening really had a massive hole in it, but overall the card was entertaining. I wasn't excited by any fights on the card, but it was an entertaining card. The build-up was great. Atmosphere was great. They paid both guys very, very well. I think they did everything they possibly could of what they've been entrusted to do in Australia and put on massive events featuring Australian fighters. So I don't blame them whatsoever. I mean, how is it their fault when Michael Zerafa decides to quit after 2 rounds? How can they be held accountable for that? There's even conspiracy theories in the lead up to the fight as well about the referee. He was pictured at the Costa Tszyu Abju fight 25 years ago with his arm around Glenn Jennings with the thumb up, and there was conspiracy theories that because he was a referee on the night, he was going to favor Nikita, all this bullshit. So I don't really subscribe to any of that. I know how hard it is to be a promoter, not at that level, but I was sympathetic to George Rose on the night because the fans were blaming No Limit. And I know that they're at fault a lot on a lot of things they do with matchups and who they have on cards, all that sort of stuff, and what they charge punters to watch. But I think on Friday night, it wasn't their fault whatsoever. And I think, if anything, they need to be probably applauded with the show they put on, the effort they went through to get these guys together. And I thought the way they handled it afterwards, I think there'll be more to come from George and Matt Rose. But, yeah, I don't think there's anything more they could have done. So I think we need to calm down on blaming No Limit and conspiracy theories and all that sort of stuff.
That's for sure. Kane Mack, how's it going? Shout out to you. And consumers asking if they're going to get refunds. No.
Everyone seems to be asking for one, but guys, not going to happen. You really think that they're going to refund money?
And of course, it's not No Limit's fault. It's not. You know what I mean?
No.
If No Limit's at fault for something, I'll be vocal about it. This isn't it.
Yep.
But I think they had every intention of putting on a great event for people. Like, I think that's obvious. It's just so I could see why he was fuming. You could see he's visibly upset about what happened.
Yeah.
Probably thinking what this is like. I mean, you promote it. This has to be the worst case scenario for main event, right? As a promoter.
Oh, yeah, yep. Because what it does, it's a massive tick, but it's also a massive cross because you've got the tick as far as mission accomplished, as far as putting on the event. Now, my pub on the night, we had a lot of people in there. The interest on social media, on mainstream media, everything was all over this fight. So they accomplished the mission of getting Australian boxing into the limelight, and it's very hard these days to get on mainstream media and get coverage. They had it all. They were at all the media gigs in the lead up to it, obviously on the fight night itself. So they had a massive tick as far as getting the amount of eyeballs on the event. And then, of course, as we seem to do in boxing, we gave ourselves a black eye with what happened. And now all the publicity is times by 10, and it's all negative. So we just tend to do that in boxing, don't we? Not just here in Australia, but all over the world. We build ourselves up and then we bring ourselves down. But look, boxing will recover. We're all excited about it, or not excited about it. We're all up in arms about it at the moment. But when the next main event comes around, we'll all be there. We'll all be paying for it. The only one we probably won't pay for is the rematch. And that's probably something I don't think that will be accepted by the fight fans over here.
This reminded me of it's funny how Bradley talked about it. I didn't watch this whole video, but I don't know if he brought it up or not because he was involved in 2 fights where something like this happened, right? Yep. And it was the Nate Campbell fight. When Nate Campbell was said he was known as a warrior, by the way. It was very uncharacteristic, but he said he was seeing black spots, right? And it kind of scared him how he was seeing black spots after the headbutt. Is that true or not? We don't know, but people kind of just moved on afterwards, right? Like he kept, till this day, he'll tell you the story like about the black spots and people need to understand, like, I was seeing black spots everywhere. And then it was the David Alexander where he forgot which side of the face it was, right? Because he was headbutted. He goes, but then he was holding this side. And so people were making fun of him.
I remember that. Yeah.
And now he recovered from it, right? But when you interviewed him, he said, look, I was hurt and dazed, and he has a big head, and he was diving in with his head illegally and hit me. And so he was able to kind of get away with it a little bit because Bradley was known as an aggressive fighter that headbutted people. And accidental. I don't think he did it on purpose. It was just like a
Yeah.
style. But in this case, though, yeah, I think it was more so of an orthodox southpaw situation. It was completely accidental. It didn't look very devastating, but like Michael didn't sell it when it happened. He wasn't he wasn't in his corner like, oh man, I can't see, or like it wasn't until they walked him over to the doctor, and then he said what he said. That's the damning part. The cover up's always worse than the crime.
And that's the thing too. You watch him in between rounds. This is the other thing that hasn't been sort of shown a lot. Is you see him in between rounds, and they interviewed the cut man as well, and he said, "Mate, are we sweet?" And he said, "Yep, mate, we're good. It's not bad." Michael wasn't blinking his eyes. He wasn't wiping his eyes. He wasn't saying to his corner, "Look, I can't see." He was cool and composed. Took a drink, had the treatment to the eye, and went out there. And it wasn't until the referee went to him and said, "Well, mate, I've got to take you to the doctor," when he said, "I can't see. And then obviously what happened in the corner. So there was no sign of anything going on in the corner or anything said to his corner. Now, if he couldn't legitimately see, wouldn't you have thought he would have said to his trainer, "Mate, I can't see. And then the decision would have been made from there. But the other thing, he like you said, he didn't do is just stick to the story. If he had just went to the center of the ring and said, "Guys, I'm really sorry. I can't see. I got blurred vision. I can't see the punches. I'm really sorry. I know you've all spent money, and I'm really sorry about what's happened, but I can't, I can't do anything about it. I can't see. My health is the main thing." I think people would have been pissed, but they would have moved on like they did with the Campbell and Bradley fight, and numerous others as well that's happened over the journey. We get pissed off, but we move on. People will not move on from this. He is finished.
Oh man.
And the thing is, mate, with his reputation in Australia, I didn't think his reputation in Australia could get any lower than it has, and he's managed to do it. So I don't know how he's pulled it off, but he's managed to go even lower in the eyes of the boxing fans out there than I ever thought he could. And I feel for him, I really do. This day and age of mental health and all that sort of stuff, I get it. But geez, what did he expect the feedback to be with what happened?
I gotta say this. I mean, if we should look at it, right? Ebony Bridges had an ugly kind of head clash with Courtney, and she kept fighting.
Yeah.
Shanika Johnson had an ugly cut.
Yep.
Bro, I don't think there's one female Australian fighter that would have done that. I'm not even exaggerating.
No.
It doesn't even matter what level. Like it's Amber Amelia would have continued to fight. Like you could name me whoever, right? They would have kept fighting. This is very uncharacteristic of a just fighter in general. It's not. I'm not trying to demasculate them by bringing up the female fighters. I'm just saying it's not something they would do. And what I want to ask you though is this: like, I think one of the reasons that's it surprised people a little bit is just from the outside looking in. One of the qualities that people always attach to Australian fighters is that they're tough. That's always been like a thing. So I still remember like when I was going to watch Michael Gazzitti's fight Marquez against, right? I was going to watch that fight with my uncle. My uncle's never seen Gazzitti's fight ever. And he asked me, "Where's he from?" And I said, "Oh, he's from Australia." He's like, "Oh, he's going to be tough. Oh, Marquez is going to have to really like put it on him, right?" That's just the if you want to call it a stereotype, good stereotype, whatever. It's just what they're known for. I think that's another thing that really surprised people about this. Like they were expecting two tough Australians to put on some fight of the year candidate, or like if it's one sided, whatever, he's going to go down swinging. It's just what people expect out of Australian fighters.
Yeah, they do, and that's probably why the backlash was so harsh coming from guys like Danny Green and Barry Michael, and didn't hear much from Michael Katsidis, but plenty of guys out there who had their say. And whether it's male or female, I just don't think any of those fighters. I mean, I remember even Shannon O'Connell on my first ever promotion she fought. Her eyelid was literally draping over her eyeball, and there's no way that she wanted to quit. And the doctor's asking her, "Can you see?" And her eyelid's literally drooping over her eye, and she's saying, "I can see." Now, the doctor obviously had to stop it. He had no choice because he could see that she couldn't see. But So I'm wondering her opinion. Actually, I might have to give her a call. But yeah, I think that's why the backlash has been so severe, is because it's just not the Australian way. The Jeff Fennicks of the world, and like you said, the Michael Katsidases and all these guys, the Jeff Hardings, George Kamboses. Imagine what George Kamboses is feeling after. And he's another guy who's probably in the Michael Zerafa camp, where he has a lot of detractors, a lot of haters, but everyone respects him. And that Teofimo Lopez fight, for me anyway, goes down as one of the most gutsiest, heartfelt performances I've ever seen from an Australian boxer. Maybe not even from an Australian boxer, a fighter overall. I mean, that was unbelievable. But that's the Australian. We like to pride ourselves on, like the Mexican fans do as well, Mexican fighters. The fighters are warriors. And I think that's always been the way with Aussies, the way we've always regarded ourselves. And that's probably why Michael Zerafa has never really been welcomed into the fold with Aussie fans, because he's never really fit that sort of stereotype. He's always been that sort of flashy, cocky guy who a lot of people think didn't have the heart to back it up. And that's probably why, again, the backlash is so harsh. But, yeah, we pride ourselves on it, mate. And let's hope this incident doesn't harm our reputation. I doubt it, because I've got a feeling most American fans over there probably didn't even see the fight or cared to see it anyway. So I know, because you're an honorary Aussie, you would have taken an interest in it. But, I mean, I don't think it would have caused much of a ripple over there.
Yeah, this was a very as a fight fan, I thought it was going to be a great fight. I picked Nikita to win, but I thought while it lasted, it would have been a great fight. And then you never know. Like, what if Nikita would have gassed out or something? You never know, right? Well, we're never going to know. And I'm not interested in a rematch. Not interested. There is, though, a rematch I am interested in with Nikita, actually. And that's against Dylan Biggs. I actually wouldn't mind that fight, and I think that's a fight that lived up to expectations. That's an example of somebody who lost to Nikita, but look at everything. He's come back. He's done a good
on the Grand Prix.
Yeah. So now somebody might say, "Look, Nikita stopped him in 5 rounds. I'm not really interested," but I personally think that's a good rematch. If you're going to do one, it should be that one, in my opinion.
Yeah, in hindsight, the fight happened way too early. Dylan Biggs was seen as a good young kid, sort of on the way up. A lot of people picked him to beat Nikita. I thought that was actually one of Nikita's most impressive performances as a pro, though. So Dylan Biggs has obviously gone on to win the WBC Grand Prix, and now is a bit of a player on the world scene, I suppose. But yeah, it's unfortunately was probably it happened maybe 2 years early. It would have been a big fight right here and now. But I've just got a feeling that No Limit and Nikita, they'll move on. I don't think they'll be too stressed about sort of going back, unless maybe Dylan Biggs then maybe he progresses and wins some sort of title or has a high ranking or something. I think that's the only way we're going to see that fight. I don't think they'll backtrack over old ground. I wouldn't have thought, especially now that I think is he at middleweight now, isn't he? So I think Nikita will go back to 154.
Yeah, he's at middleweight. So this is going to be interesting to see what they do with Nikita. So what do they do with them? Because obviously we're not going to I hope they don't even consider a Zerafa rematch. But where does he kind of go from here? He's kind of stuck in no man's land, kind of.
He
learned a lot about him.
And the thing is, this fight's gone 2 rounds. Didn't really get a lot out of it. The last fight before that went 1 round. Didn't get much out of that either. Surprisingly, both fights were stopped in between rounds, which is it doesn't happen that often. But yeah, I would think they're going to go international with him now, but I just think they'll be very cautious about how deep they go. I think they'll skirt around the outskirts of a 15 to 20 ranked type of fighter and gradually build him up. Because let's face it, he still has some things to work on. I think he's improved dramatically, and I still think he would have beaten Zerafa conclusively on Friday night. And I'm not sure whether you've seen my video, but I was impressed with Nikita, and the reason I think he would have won is because even though I gave Zerafa the first round, I thought it was scrappy, bit of back and forth. But when Zerafa actually did nail Nikita didn't blink. He wasn't bothered by it. And I think in the second round, he really ragdolled Zerafa around. I just think Michael wasn't prepared for what he got. And all the emotions and adrenaline and the pressure and all, I think might have got to Michael. But all that aside, yeah, I think with Nikita now, I think they'll go international. But just maybe give him 4 or 5 fights at the the outskirts before going to the top 10. I would think. As I said, he's still got a fair bit to work on. Mainly his defense. He's still very vulnerable, and even in that first round against Michael, he did wear a couple of punches that maybe he shouldn't have worn.
Yeah, that's
I've got
another
time
reason.
too. Mm.
Yeah, that's another reason to be frustrated about this whole thing because he didn't get to get his rounds in. He didn't get to like, because he would have done what. And I agree with you. I do think it was going to be a long night for Michael Zerafa, and I do think he would have been stopped late. But we would have like seen more from Nikita, and we just didn't get much here, So,
yeah,
I think the crowd spent more energy in like after that fight than the fighters did during the fight. But I was like, I heard you talk about it actually about I didn't know that he was going to exit the ring, and they brought him back, and then they waited for things to calm down, and I never see that. Has that ever really happened in Australia with the fans?
It's not usually the Australian way. Is to. I mean, we've seen incidents in the crowd. And even today, I did a video about some of the most bizarre and pretty crazy moments in Australian boxing history. So if your watchers haven't seen that, make sure they do this. There's been some bizarre times in Australian boxing, but I've never seen the crowd turn so much on one fighter, and even with the promoter. I mean, George Rose got booed, but to actually bring a fighter back for fears of his safety by going to the change rooms, that you never see that in Australian boxing. As I said, you might see some fights in the crowd or some pretty childish behaviour, but you'd never see an Australian boxing crowd turn that way and be so sort of spiteful towards one guy in the ring. But as I said in the videos as well, I'm not sure what Michael expected the reaction to be. What do you think, that it cost nothing to go, and it cost nothing for flights and accommodation and food and everyone tuning in? I mean, even in my pub, I mean, people were livid, and they were just in there enjoying the fight for free. So I shudder to think the people that were actually there on the night, that spent all that money to go there. I mean, I just don't know what he expects. And if he had some class or whatever you might want to say, and to the right people in his ear, he should actually just come out and just wear it and say, guys, I'm really sorry. I apologize. Yes, what I said was sort of contradictory. I get it. I apologize to everyone, that spent money, and just throw him at the mercy of the boxing public. If he just goes out there and says what he said on Friday night, it will be worse. If he has any chance of any hope, and it might be a 1% chance of continuing here in Australia, he needs to come out and, I think, apologise to the boxing fans, the boxing public, everyone involved, and then he's still going to be pushing it, I think.
Look, this was maybe someone who can get a benefit out of this is Liam Paro. Now, somebody may say, well, why Liam Paro? And look, we know his fight got canceled, but now he has an opportunity. He called it on the Boxing Scene article, blessing and a curse, that his fight got postponed or canceled. But now he could get that opportunity against Lewis Crocker. And No Limit, I feel anyway, like they need to make a big move. Like they need some headline, a positive headline, something.
Yep.
And they may bid higher than maybe they will usually be willing to do to get this fight, because I think they need this fight more than, and I believe Crocker is promoted by Matchroom, so they need it more, right? And they've won purse bids before. They've beaten top ranking purse bids before, so Paro may be the make it. His bag might have gotten bigger because of this. Because I think they're going to have to bid big.
And the other opportunity they've got is Andrew Maloney, who hasn't got a promoter at the moment. He's got the guaranteed world title shot by the end of June as well. So really, if you're talking about them trying to go into damage control and really give the boxing public something they're really after, then maybe, really go hard on the Liam Paro fight to make sure it's here in Australia. And with the Maloney, and I think it's going to be Garcia, or I think Williberto Garcia, who they're looking at, maybe say, all right, we might bid and get that one, which wouldn't be an expensive fight, by the way, and we'll go bang, bang with two big world title fights on No Limit shows, and just try and give something back to the boxing public, because even though it's not their fault, and I stand by that, and Liam Wilson, you're right, there's another one. He could, if he gets a world title shot, bring that back here. That's what they're going to need to rebuild. And I think that Main Event, the broadcasting channel, will be pushing for those fights to get back in the good graces of the boxing fans, because this is one of the darkest times in Aussie boxing history. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and look, nothing would have made it. Like at the end of the day, I used to work customer service like way back in the day for Dish and Deloyas Prime and stuff, and people would buy pay-per-views. Look, if the pay-per-view was trash or something like this happened, it didn't matter if the undercard was good. People would be calling in, complaining, wanting refunds. It comes down to the main event. So nothing would have made up for it. They could have had 10 fight of the year, maybe not that, but they could have had a bunch of fight of the year candidates on the undercard. I still think the energy would have been the same.
100% it would have been. The fight card was actually quite entertaining.
Yeah. Hey, the rugby player got a pretty good knockout, I got to admit.
Yeah,
good,
highlight reel. Yep.
He did. I was like, damn, that's a good shot. But got to give credit where credit's due. But I will say this. I think it's not like No Limit doesn't have options and things to work with. There's plenty of fighters in Australia that will put on great fights for you. Like they're there. And so they could put together a lot of things, because what I will say is this. Well, I'm not blaming them for this specific pay-per-view and it didn't go their way. They haven't exactly built up really good equity with the fan base. The perception is they put on fights that don't belong on pay-per-view. This one did belong on pay-per-view. I don't care what anybody says. I would have put on pay-per-view.
It did.
But there's been some questionable fight cards that you scratch your head like, why is that on pay-per-view? And you're when the one that should be on pay-per-view doesn't live up, you're going to get it twice as hard. Like it's just what it is. I think I'm looking at smaller promoters that don't have a network deal, that don't have the money or the backing that No Limit has. They don't have that apparatus. They don't have Main Event or whatever like behind it and all that. And sometimes you got to be honest, they take No Limit's lunch when it comes to putting on better fight cards. They just do. They just put on better quality fights. And I scratch my head and I'm thinking, how do they allow this to even happen? Right? How do you, not to bring it back to the ladies, but how do you put on Jazzy Parr and fights that nobody cares about? But then the good one against Solomon, you don't put that one on. Like who's in charge here? Like I just
Kay Scott, Desi Robinson was another one they missed out on as well.
Yeah, or they did put it on the second fight last year.
Yeah,
but they could have been on the driver's seat to put that undisputed fight. Like they could be in right now. Like and O'Connell against Dargan.
Yeah,
that's another. Dargan's another fighter you did all this investing in, and then when she's gonna get her step up fight against a really good fighter, she's not on No Limit. Like I mean, I know she hasn't been with No Limit for a while, but it just makes me scratch my head, right?
Yeah.
There's things they could do. They could put on some good fight nights for people, and people will slowly but surely forget about what happened in this main event. They can make up for it. If they get the Crocker fight with Paro, I think people will get excited for that one. And I think Paro has a really good chance of winning it. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. And sorry, I forgot about Scott and Desley Robinson's second fight was with No Limit. But what I think with No Limit, my biggest, the explanation I probably got about No Limit and some of the puzzling decisions they make is that they're not actual boxing people. They've come into it. George Rose used to be a rugby league player himself, and they've come into the boxing scene. They're not actual boxing business people, and that's why I think you'll see the Sam LeBruners who put on the Maya Solomon and Jazzy Parr fight. He put it on because he's a boxing person. The Wanderer Promotions, who's putting on Shannon and Dargan, he's a boxing guy. So I think they know the type of cards they need to put together, the way they need to build fighters up They need a combination of the big guys at the top and then the up-and-coming guys at the bottom, and feed them through the ranks so they end up becoming main event fighters. I think the vision from No Limit, because they're not actual boxing people, they don't get it. They just think, well, we'll just have a big star at the top, and then we'll just put a heap of entertaining fights on the undercard, and that should do it. But what happens is, of course, is what sort of happened with Tim Tszyu and when he sort of hiatus, I suppose, as a top liner. There was no real depth below him. There was no stars coming up they could really use to build up. And it's like Sam Goodman, Liam Wilson. These are really good fighters to have on there, but they're not real stars. And they haven't built them properly. So that's the biggest fault I have with No Limit, is they don't build it. And they have a perfect platform over here with the No Limit on Fox. It's a little bit like the ESPN fights over there. And they've gone by the wayside as well. They had up to about 6 fights nights a year, where it was a free show on Fox Sports over here. They could put whoever they want them on there. That was the platform they should have been using as a feeder to the pay-per-views, and they just didn't do it. They slapped together whatever fights they could just to keep Foxtel happy and Main Event happy, and they didn't build any fighters on there. And now I think the whole thing looks like it's been scrapped anyway. We had Angelo DiCarlo in Queensland, who was on a secondary channel over here. Channel 7's one of the mainstream channels, but he had a secondary channel to that. Had a great concept, great platform. It was a great idea from Angelo DiCarlo, and they axed it after 1 year because the mainstream or that channel just, it's too hard basket to have boxing on there when they've got football and everything else. So I know it's hard, but that's the biggest thing I have. The problem with No Limit is they need proper boxing people around them to advise them how to build careers and build fighters and get the Cooper O'Connell signed and sealed on the promotions and build them up so that when the Tim and Nikitas and all the and Liam Wilsons and Sam Goodmans have gone and Liam Paros, you've got all these young up and comers, I should say, all taking their spots and getting being familiar with the public out there, and they're just not doing it. So that's the biggest flaw I see in No Limit. Unless they fix that, I think they're probably going to lose the rights to boxing, or they'll just scrap boxing altogether. Who knows? But
I was going to bring up that point first. Kane Mac, the problem with overpriced pay-per-views, so many people just won't buy them. If they were at least a bit cheaper, they would bring more eyes to the sport and their brand.
Good in theory, though, D-Style. The problem is, Kane, the problem with that is that the promoters need X amount of dollars to make the fights happen. It's like, no one likes to pay $70. I'm sure No Limit, as an example, don't want to charge $70, but unfortunately, with them doing the calculations to make the fight or make the card and make $1 themselves, they have to charge it. Now, I'm with you there. The fight cards aren't worth $70, but based on the calculations, they would have to charge that. And I know the argument also comes that, well, but if they halve the price, they could get twice as many people on board. I'm not so sure, and I'm not sure that's a risk they would be willing to take. So in theory, Kane, you're 100% right. The cards aren't worth $70, but unfortunately, the promoters have to charge that based on the cost projections.
Look, they're the biggest promotional company in Australia.
Yep.
And by far. And maybe not by far, but by a good amount. And who would be second? Tasman Fighters, something like that?
Yeah, Tasman Fighters, yeah.
So, look, I'll give them credit where credit's due. No Limit has some of the best production, not just in Australia, anywhere. Their production's on point. Like, I look at that and I'm like, I still remember like when Tim Tszyu would fight on PBC, and I'm like, they should have let No Limit do the production. They would have done a better job, to be honest.
Yep.
So like, I'll give them credit where credit's due. I love the pyros and the fire and like all that stuff. I love it all.
Yep.
Right. I do think I give them credit. Like when it comes to Zerafa versus Nikita, not only did it make sense to put on pay-per-view, it was your duty to put it on pay-per-view. Like it's, you got to get you're promoting Nikita. You got to make them as much money as possible. That's just the name of the business. Right. But my thing is, why don't they hire like I don't know who their matchmaker is. I don't even know if they have a matchmaker. Like you would think they would have a matchmaker, somebody with a long-term vision. I know I'm not going to mention any names, but I know of a heavyweight fighter that turned pro that they really wanted, and Matchroom took him from them, right? And Matchroom takes a bunch of their fighters that they don't have any world champions right now. They don't have any it's with the backing of No Limit, they could put a lot of these female fighters in a driver's seat to fight for world titles. They could do it, because they have a TV deal, they have the apparatus behind it. They're obviously they're not doing something right. Something just seems off. And my thing is, what does happen? What happens if they lose? And I've heard the rumor that they might lose their TV deal. What are they going to do?
The contract's coming up, and then they need to justify why they should get the contract again. Now, I've never really liked the idea of a monopoly on everything,
right.
But they've been given every single thing that a promoter needs to have the best interests of boxing in this country at their disposal. And as I said, I just don't think they've utilized it. I've often said that they've got the keys to the Ferrari and they drive it like a beat up, car, but maybe not to that extent. But I'm with you. I think they put on great shows. I think the problem is they keep it too in-house. I think Trent is the younger brother. I think he's the main matchmaker. I think he works in conjunction with people, but I think he's the man that puts the shows together, the undercards together. But the problem is he's not a boxing person either. So I don't know. I'm with you. I think they almost need to bring in someone. I mean, they are great promoters, great negotiators, all that sort of stuff. Bring in someone below that can just concentrate on the lower level, and their sole job is to bring in the best talent, sign the best talent, and then organize them to be built into stars, an actual boxing person, not just a mate or someone they know or whatever it might be. Someone that's a very experienced operator in the boxing industry. Bring them in and let them do the underbelly of their promotional firm, because they do a great job with the shows themselves. The problem is it's all top heavy. It's all at the top, and it just goes very, very narrow, very, very quick as far as the base of the whole business. So I don't think it'd be a hard thing to do. I mean, I'm sure they all make good money out of the promotions, and I think with what's been entrusted in them by Main Event and everyone else involved in the sport in this country, they've got the means to bring in the best possible people. Everyone wants a piece of No Limit. All the fighters want to be on their cards. All the managers and trainers all want their fighters part of it. All the promoters sort of want their guys on there as well. They want to work in conjunction. They want to have TV dates, all these sorts of things. So they have everything going in their favor. They hold all the aces in the deck, and I just don't think they utilize them. I think the mentality seems to me, looking from the outside in, is that, look, we're No Limit. We'll do whatever we want. Everyone else will just do what we say, and we'll contact you when we need you. Not, let's get on board with everybody. This is probably what I'll do. I know I'm sort of rambling on here, but what I would do if I was running that type of corporation or company is to get all the other biggest promoters in Australia and work in with them, try and get their guys on the cards, try and maybe get some dates for them and work in conjunction with them. I know they do a little bit with Ace Boxing now. That's what they need to do. But from what I've heard is they're a little bit arrogant about their whole thing and just say, hey, we'll let you know when we need you, not the other way around. And we know. And I think if that's the case, you might find another promoter might just sneak past them at some stage, steal the TV rights and do it properly. The other promoter, I think, I'm not sure, Kane, you're talking about Angelo DiCarlo. I'm probably thinking probably the one. And Mick Francis, of course.
Some of these smaller I'm telling you, I look at those fight cards and I'm like, those are some good cards. Those are
it's
some
good
cards.
Fights. Really good cards.
How do they make it happen? It's they can make it happen. I'm just saying.
They can.
Well,
sorry to cut you off there, but I remember even with Dean Lonigan, who promoted Horn Pacquiao. He was Jeff Horn's promoter. Now, he had a great vision that he worked in with me and a few other promoters with. That was the best concept I've seen. Now, it fell over because of COVID. It just started, been for about a year. COVID came about and it all fell over. What he did, he negotiated the National Boxing Series on Fox Sports. He had a contract. This is before it all went to No Limit. But what he did, he was the lead promoter, but he worked in with guys like myself in Melbourne. He had another guy in Sydney. He had another guy in Brisbane. He had someone in Canberra. So the smaller promoters who he had faith in, who wanted to work with, he would let us do all the groundwork and do all dealing with the combat boards and all the ring and the matchmakers and the combat boards and all that sort of stuff. And what he did was focus on the big picture, sponsorship, the big fights, dealing with Fox Sports, all that sort of stuff. and he let us smaller promoters do all the groundwork and put the show on. And then he would put his fighters on our cards, pay for everything to do with those fighters. And it was a great deal, and let us keep all the gate takings, all that sort of stuff. That was the way to do it. Okay. And he had I think he had 4 different promoters working under him, and it was the perfect concept. And No Limit need to do something like that, because there are some very, very good promoters around Australia that they could do exactly the same thing with. And from what I've heard, they treat them like shit, and those guys will drop away.
Hey, you got to be careful how you treat people when you're on top.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You just have to.
Yep.
Because, well, there's an old saying in Texas, you know, it's be careful how you treat people on the way up, because that's going to determine how many asses you got to kiss on the way down.
On the way down, yeah.
Yep. So you got to be really careful, like because maybe I'm wrong about this, but it seems to me like they've. I'm not even saying this is wrong of them, but it's smart. But they've really leveraged the fact that they were Tim's promoter. Mm-hmm. That really helped them a lot here. That the fact that they have the Tszyu name, that they have Nikita as well. Because aside from that, I don't know what else they really have over these other promoters.
No, well, all they have is TV, you know, and which is a lot.
if it was me, like this is going back 3-4 years. I was looking at Jai Opetaia wondering why isn't he on No Limits cards? Like it's, I get he was signed with Tasman, but I don't know how long he's been with Tasman. But when I'm hearing Jai do interviews saying I didn't even get paid for my first like 12, 13 fights, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a dude you could have gotten. You know?
Well, that's the thing with Jai. I mean, Jai has been with Mick Francis since day dot, and Dean Lonigan. They had a bit of a messy breakup, but Jai was actually. And this is the thing. Dean had Jai. He had Liam Wilson. He had. He almost had Tim Tszyu. He had Isaac Harbin. He had a lot of good fighters, but it just all sort of fell over there. But yeah, I sort of do worry about where they're going forward. That's for sure.
And look, maybe I'm biased saying this, but how do you have a fight card in Brisbane? And I saw some of those fights. Like, are you telling me Cooper O'Connell's that expensive? You couldn't get him on that card? He's literally right, like he's like right across town, right? I mean, he's not that far.
Yeah,
Like you're doing a fight in Brisbane. Why aren't you
400 around
in Brisbane?
Yeah, for 400 around. And I was just going to say, too, about Jai Opetaia as well. So I sort of got off track there. If No Limit were really serious about things and maybe had a boxing person there with them, the first thing I would be doing is going to Mick Francis and saying, hey, Mick, I know we've had our differences. Can we sit down and have a coffee and try and iron something out? I know it's too late now because Jai's with Zerafa, but obviously the opportunity was there. If No Limit had gone to Mick Francis, say, hey, mate, because Mick's also his manager. So I don't think Mick is big on putting on shows now. He's a little bit over it. So he's more the manager of the guys, him and Justice Honey and a few of the others. So the opportunity was there, obviously, to go to Mick Francis, hey, Mick, I know we've had our differences, but let's have a coffee and sort this out. We want No Limit, I'm talking about. We want Jai Opetaia on main event platform here in Australia. He needs to be. We need the Maloney boys. We need all the biggest guys in Australia should all be signed with No Limit. And I know there's egos and all that involved there as well, but if they were smart, they should have sat down with Mick and sorted something out to get Jai Opetaia on in Australia. And Mick's obviously thought, well, to hell with Australia then. No one's going to support us here. We can't get it on any platforms. The last thing was an Australian streaming service that no one really has, Stan, and went off the zone. So he's obviously said, well, I've got to look out for the best interests for my fighter. Not happening for us in Australia. So Australia, it's your loss. We'll take him overseas and fight him over there and hopefully get to where he needs to get to. But that is a massive opportunity just gone begging by No Limit.
Yeah. Speaking of Jai, glad you brought it up. I had completely forgotten about it. He signed with Zerafa Boxing. This was the most surprising. I'm like, what? Like, what's going on here? I'm sure something tells me behind the scenes from all the way with Turk Al-Sheikh, they talked to Jai and they said, this is what we want you to do. My only head scratcher is this, right? His message is confusing to me because he says, we're gonna go for undisputed, all unifications, but like Zerafa already came out, like Dana White came out and said they're not going to recognize the sanctioning bodies, only the ring belt and the Zerafa belt. unless they have a change of heart, I don't know. But it doesn't seem like they're going to go the route of unifying or undisputed here.
Maybe what they'll do is maybe have a bit of a grace period, a year or two, where they might allow title fights on the cards. Because who are the fighters going to fight? If it's going to be completely in house like they said it's going to be, who are they going to fight? Jai Bhatia, who's he going to fight if it's all completely in house? So it's just not going to work. So I've got a feeling they might do it over time, I would think, and because the champions out there at the moment aren't going to want to give up their world title belts to an unproven organization, even though it is Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh, still unproven. There's no proof it's going to work. So I would think they would say, well, maybe for the first couple of years to attract people into the stable, they will be allowing them to fight for different belts, and maybe once it's established and up and going, they've got more stars on board, then they might just phase out the belts and just go with their own. But I did, like you, sort of go, hang on, he's talking about undisputed and unifying, but Dana White said straight off the bat they will not recognize world title belts. So he didn't give a time frame on it, but that's the only thing I can think of, is that maybe they'll do it over the next couple of years, I would think.
Or maybe they're like a lot of people that get into the boxing business saying they're going to do this, and that, and then they fall in line. They're right.
Yeah.
PBC came out saying, "Oh, we're not going to recognize the belts," and then 2 shows later, like, they were recognizing the belts. So I mean, it's just hard. It's hard to get around it with all the rankings, all the world fighters around the world. It's just hard to get around it. It's and so if they're going to do it, it's just like you said, it's going to have to be a process. They cannot do it overnight, because then who the hell is Jai going to fight? Like, I mean,
and this is not the UFC either, where you're starting from the ground up. This is an established sport that's been around 150 years, whatever it's been, and it's established. It's not perfect. It's got a lot of flaws, but it is what it is. And you just can't come in and just say we're going to throw out all the belts, bring all the best fighters in, and then start again. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, like, and Jai is almost, and his story is almost a perfect. I will say this though, I'm not saying it was by design, but it's almost a perfect guy for them to sign.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Because what are people going to say, right? Like, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to exploit that story that Jai's already told. They're going to exploit the hell out of it, right? Oh, you guys are saying that we're not going to pay the fighters. Jai wasn't getting paid for so many X amount of fights. They're going to exploit that, right? Like, they're going to use that, and they're going to bring in fighters, and they're going to have these fighters tell their stories. Like, it's what they're going to do for PR reasons. Because one of the biggest things that they're getting on about, Dana, he rips off fighters in the UFC. He wants to rip off fighters here in boxing. Mark my words, they're going to exploit that story, for better or for worse. They're going to do it. And for PR reasons, it might be smart of them to give Jai his best payday. Just so they could say, look at a guy like Jai Opataya. Like, nobody wanted to pay him, but we're paying him. I think that would be a good move for them, to be honest with you. My thing is this, like, because we're going to tie it with Goldenboy here, because they have Zurdo Ramirez, right? Who I think is going to lose to David, so he might become irrelevant after that in terms of this talk. But, I mean, if Zuffa is in-house and Zurdo has a belt, like, or let's say David wins them, how are we going to get this unification to happen?
That's right. Yep. Not going to happen. So, yeah, no, I'm with you too. I reckon Jai's a perfect fit for Zuffa. Timing's great, and maybe they'll just pick off guys like Jai around the divisions and maybe focus on the stars, the real stars, once they come out of contract or whatever it might be, and once it's a little bit more established. But, yeah, look, yeah, it's good on them for what they're doing. I just hope they don't treat the sport with contempt. That's all I'm a little bit worried about, because I've got a feeling Dana White doesn't necessarily think the world of boxing. He's an MMA type of guy, and where he just thinks it's an opportunity to take over another sport, but it hasn't really got its best interests at heart. I don't know. Let's hope not. But we'll give him a go. We'll give him a go. That's all we can do.
Well, he did start as in boxing.
Yeah, he
right,
did.
Dana. I think he did some work with Floyd Mayweather very, very early. I don't know if he was like and I don't think it was his manager. He did something for Floyd. I don't know what it was. And then he was trying promoting. He got muscled around, to be honest, by a lot of the bigger promoters in the New England area, and like main events and stuff like that. and then he found this opportunity to become a promoter in the UFC. He was very successful at it, and he most definitely took it out on a lot of these boxing promoters. Like he did not have a lot of nice things to say about them, and I do think it's because of the way he felt he was treated when he was in the boxing world. Which goes back to the point, but be careful when you're on top, you know what I mean, and how you treat people. But yeah, like I don't. Even if he does love boxing, like it's not gonna like UFC is gonna be his first love, no matter what.
That's right. His main priority too. Yep.
Yeah, so like he could talk about the slap boxing league, which I think is a joke, by the way, but he does that. He could talk about anything else that he does, but UFC is always going to be number one. Yeah, and it just is what it is. So he's always going to be known as the UFC guy, no matter how successful he is. But we're going to see how it goes because Lyndon, right now, Oscar De La Hoya,
got some issues, doesn't he?
He's getting sued by Virgil and his manager. They want out of the contract. I don't know how much of that's for show or whatever. Usually these boxing contracts are pretty ironclad. I don't think you can just get out of it like that, but we'll see how that goes. But Ryan saying, this is my last fight and then I'm out. He's going to be fighting Barrios and he doesn't want to return with Goldenboy. They've lost everybody from Canelo to Sinisa Estrada they've lost everybody. They don't have a network deal now. You want to kill a promotional company, take away their network deal.
Yeah, and Top Rank's a little bit the same, isn't it? They haven't really got any stars or a deal either.
Yeah, I've heard that Top Rank might replace Goldenboy on the Zone. I don't know how true that it is, but that's what I've heard. But we'll see. But Top Rank's probably the only promotional company I know that without a network deal, they're still able to function and put on fight cards. And I guess that goes back to they just have an apparatus in place and boxing people that know what they're doing. But Goldenboy is in a really bad place right now.
Yeah. And Oscar can do all of the videos that he wants and make all the statements that he wants. But at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is. Virgil Ortiz was his biggest star. And if he leaves after Canelo, I think it's the same lawyer, isn't it, that got Canelo out of his contract.
That's what he said, yeah.
Yeah, so if he gets out as well, yeah, I mean, where does Oscar go? And this is the thing, the fighters, the young fighters coming up aren't going to want to go to Goldenboy. They always want to go to the biggest and best promoters. And it's all in cycles, I suppose. If Goldenboy lands another big Canelo type of fighter down the track, well, all that changes and it all goes back through them like it used to when they had Canelo. But yeah, I think he's in a bit of trouble. I mean, he's only a young guy; he's got plenty of time, but he might be going down the same way as PBC, Top Rank, who continue to function but aren't real big players anymore. And he might just be one of those sort of B and C level promoters going forward, and it's going to be the Turkey Al Sheiks and Zulfas and those types of guys that are doing all the work, and Match Rooms, of course, as well.
I heard through the grapevine that Oscar was talking a little too much on his live streams, or that he was doing, and he pissed off some people. Yeah, all the way up to Turkey Al Sheik. And
well, we find it funny, but I don't think they would find it funny.
Yeah, like and there's an old saying in pro wrestling, like he worked himself into a shoot. And yeah, it's funny and all that, but you got to be careful with the ears. And also, Oscar's really good at, like, he does like this. He throws little digs at people, and he thinks people are just going to overlook it. And maybe an Eddie Hearn, who's been in the boxing world a long time, it's whatever to him. Maybe he could let it go, right? And he has, to be honest. He's kind of just let it go. He throws his stuff back at Oscar, and then they start doing business again. But Oscar's he's really good at, like, just poking at people, and I think people are just tired of it at this point. Yeah, he was throwing shots at Virgil's manager on a live stream, like or one of those clapback videos before that happened. And it's like, why do that? Like, why put your dirty laundry out with everybody? There's no need to do that.
I think his manager actually spoke really well in retaliation too, didn't he?
He did. I thought he handled, he's a manager. Usually managers are pretty good at this stuff. Yeah. You don't want to get in a social media battle with a manager. They're going to keep it classy, and you're not. What are you going to do, right? And I just feel like Oscar at this point, he needs Virgil like bad. He can't afford to lose Virgil Ortiz, and it's a really bad look that his fighter is. It's like, Oscar, stop making the clapback videos and just arrange something with his manager and Virgil, go eat dinner or something, talk about it, and get it taken care of. Like, why are you talking about this on the internet, bro? Like, what are you going to accomplish? But yeah, I heard that they're kind of tired of him, and they don't need him. Like, I kind of called it like once Turkey gets the ring from him, because he owned the ring. You know, what else does he have? Just some fighters. That's it. You know, and the only reason he had, and this is the issue with Oscar, the only reason he had that DAZN multi-year deal was because of Canelo, right? He leveraged Canelo to get a big deal with DAZN, right? A multi-fight deal, a multi-year deal. But where he messed up was he negotiated for Canelo and did not consult Canelo on some of the things he promised his own. That's the reason Canelo was able to win in court and get out of his contract. But like this is what leverage does he have now?
And it looks like a guy who is just knows he's under the pump and just can't accept that maybe he's not as relevant as he was or as influential as he was, and is just having a really hard time realizing that he's not, as I said, as important as he used to be. And isn't it funny too? His persona is so much different as a promoter than what it was as a fighter.
100%.
He's a loose cannon as a promoter, but as a fighter, is always very well spoken, very respectful.
Yeah.
I just think it's a guy who's really struggling to grasp that he's not as relevant as he used to be.
You know the funny thing? I don't think either one is a real Oscar. I think he was put on a fake act when he was a fighter. I always thought it was too nice. A lot of people always said that nobody's that nice, you know. And now he's just a little too extra, you know. It's just acting way too extra now. And I gotta be honest, like I know people find it funny and stuff, and maybe Oscar finds it funny, but when he does these videos in thongs and he does these posts on social media with like dressed up in drag practically, dude, like. I'm all about let live. I'm all for that, but you're a boxing promoter. You're a promoter of like a man's sport. Like, what are you doing? Like, why would any fighter want to sign to you? Why would anybody take you serious?
The Edgar Berlanga wig was pretty funny though on the plane, I thought.
But and that's the thing. Like, should a promoter be funny on the internet though?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, Eddie Hearn sort of copped a bit as well, didn't he? But he's nothing compared to what Oscar's like.
Nah, I just can't imagine Bob Arum doing some clapback thirsty type thing where he does a video every week and acts like that. Like I can't imagine it. Or Don King or you go down the line. Even these regional promoters, I just can't imagine, you know, George Rose acting that way.
Promoters got to be seen to be super professional and straight lined and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and I'm with you. But I mean, what is the real Oscar? I suppose we don't know. But I enjoy the clapback sort of stuff. But I also get why the industry wouldn't like that either.
I think he's getting muscled out. To be honest, I think he still has fighters, so he's going to work with PBC now and see what they can do. And maybe that gives us some great fight cards. But I just don't know where he's going. And the way he's been acting, he's been really, honestly, it's nothing like you think of Oscar the fighter, great career, right? Fought everybody. I mean, they threw him in there with everyone. But he doesn't promote his fighters the same way. He's like, I'm not saying he's protecting Virgil, but the perception is that he's protecting Virgil, right? When you come out and you tell Eddie, oh, you're the one begging for the fight. So and it's like, no, it's a fight people want to see, Oscar. That's not a good narrative to put out. The Zurdo situation, it's just like, you just appear to be the obstacle to making that unification with Jai. Yeah. You know, like he feels like the obstacle in a lot of these fights.
I think Eddie Hearn's actually handled the whole thing really well as far as the Ennis and Ortiz stuff goes as well. By not sort of, excuse the pun, clapping back at Oscar, I think he's actually he's been seen as the guy that I think we can believe on what's been said and done. I think we can believe him more than we can believe Oscar.
Well, it is what it is. This has been a great show, Lyndon.
Thanks, mate.
We're going to go ahead
Always
and
a
wrap
pleasure.
this. For sure. We're going to wrap this one. Any final words? You're going to do a live tonight?
I am going to do a live tonight, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting with the feedback tonight. I think the viewership will be nice and high, and lots of comments coming my way.
Yeah.
So if you're not interested in talking about Zerafa versus Tszyu, maybe don't tune in tonight. But I think there'll be a fair few on there. But yeah, make sure you tune in Boxing Deep Dive. I do the walk every morning and the weekly show as well. A few other bits and pieces. But appreciate you having me on, mate, and all the best to you and your viewers as well.
For sure. And one more thing about Zerafa, boy, I think I said it offline. I didn't say it on the show. He picked the worst weekend to do this. There's no big fights, no distractions, really, to be honest with you. I'm sure he's just hoping that some big news pops up and people just move on. The one thing that will help him, the world does move fast nowadays.
It does.
People move on quick. So the fact that we're still talking about it right now speaks volumes on how big of a deal this was. So
yeah, you're right.
So there you go. All right. We're out of here, guys. Peace.
Good stuff, mate. Thank you.